PTOs of our district are very active in supporting the goals of the district. You do a lot of things on a volunteer basis to make sure that our kids have the extra. All the activities that you support and sponsor for the district are greatly appreciated, particularly all those things that we see on the school calendar and all the engagement of our students and our families throughout the year. It's really important. So while we do come out to see you formally once a year, please know that we recognize all the good work that you do on behalf of the children here at Genet. We start looking at our budget, not just from a standpoint of dollars and cents or expenditures and revenues. We start looking at what we've been doing over the course of the last few years and where we want to go as a district. We have a strategic plan, and that strategic plan involves increasing our academic success, building on an already great district, and making sure that we have the programs, the curriculum, the instructional technology available to keep that district moving forward with academic achievement. We also have goals in the area of safety. It's very important for us to make sure that the kids are safe every day. It's our most important responsibility. Our Board of Education has prioritized safety into one of its goals. So we look at things such as the infrastructure. A few years ago, the district provided single points of entry vestibules. This year, you will start to see this spring some of the work of the capital project that was approved just a few years ago with new technologies going into the building. There'll be a new fire and smoke alarm system installation. There'll be new video cameras and security cameras throughout each of the elementary schools, the middle school and the high school, starting this spring and into the summer. There will be new public address systems and telephone systems that were originally put into the building in 1995 that now need to be replaced. But those are important priorities in our strategic plan under safety. Safety also in the sense of our plans, our lockdown drills, our lockout drills, our evacuation drills, and the things that we practice all year long. Our board has an active safety committee, and we really take that area of safety very important. Additionally, we've been working with parent groups, the local colleges and the university, the Questar BOCES, as well as business and industry, to make sure that we are informed about the expectations that are out there once our kids graduate. We formed a business advisory committee that's working with the district, and one of the things that we have identified is a set of job skills that our kids are going to need and a set of soft skills that they're going to need when they graduate. Whether they choose to go on to a 4-year college, to a 2-year college, or go right into the workplace or into the military, we've been working with our partners in the region to make sure that we know how we can best prepare the kids and what pathways we can provide for them, starting as early as upper elementary school when the kids are moving into 4th and 5th grade, then into middle school and high school. How can we make sure that they're not only graduating in 4 years, but they're graduating prepared? And then last but not least, long-range planning. Our district is fortunate to have in our business official, Larry Edson, and in our board, a long-range vision to make sure that we have the resources not only for next year's budget, but for budgets in the future. So we set aside monies and we plan strategically to replace things like buses, to be able to address our debt, to be able to manage the finances, not only on a year-to-year basis, but on a long-range basis. So that's our strategic plan. Then we look at our instructional needs, starting in kindergarten. And one of the things that we will talk about this evening is the fact that after a period of about 12 to 13 years of enrollment decline, we are seeing more students at the elementary school level coming into the district. Some that are being born within our district and some that are moving within our district. In fact, our enrollment estimates indicate that between now and the next 5 years, we should be seeing at least 150 to 200 more children. That enrollment projection informs our class sizes. We need to make sure that we meet our communities and our parents' expectation for class size goals. As we're receiving more students into the district, in order to contain and maintain the class sizes, we need to have the staff to be able to support that. Additionally, instructional includes the extracurricular activities. Those activities of art, music, the athletic programs, the science clubs, the after-school programs, those are all important to ensure that we have a well-rounded curriculum and that we have lots of opportunities for the students to stay connected to school. And then from the instructional plan, we look at what we can afford. We look at our revenue side of the budget, the two largest sources of revenue for a school district are the local property tax base and state aid. And over the course of the last few years, the state aid situation in terms of the amount of money and increase that East Greenbush receives every year are very, very minimal. In fact, we were in the first tier, which is the lowest tier in terms of the increase that was included for East Greenbush in the final state budget of about 0.75%, less than a 1% increase in state aid going into next year. So that impacts the district. The only other choices we have are to offset that state aid through raising the local property tax base or cutting staff at programs that are important to the community. So we put that all together and try to balance it. Under academic excellence, our state test performance at all of our elementary schools is at or above the New York State average. Our middle school and our high school test performance is also above the New York State average. We also look at our graduation rate. We'll cite some of the statistics regarding our graduation rate and where we rank in the Capital District compared to other districts. In the area of delivering educational, human, fiscal resources to enhance student achievement, as I mentioned earlier, we long-range plan. We set aside resources to make sure that we are able to cover increased costs as we move our district forward from year to year. We're also developing new strategies in our human resources department to make sure that we are recruiting the best people to work with your kids, including our instructional staff in terms of the teachers, our counselors, our social workers, our nurses, our non-instructional staff, our teaching assistants, all very important to provide quality to the kids. We've talked about the relationships that we're trying to build within the community. We recognize that this is a shared mission to educate the children, and we also talked about safety. Some of the highlights, last year's graduating class, 88% of our kids that graduated last year went on to a 2 or 4 year college or to a vocational school. The 95% graduation rate that we currently achieve is the second highest in the capital region among 84 schools. We are ranked 8th among 84 capital region school districts, and we are ranked number 1 in terms of achievement in Rensselaer County. Our high school has twice received the Silver Medal Award from the U.S. News and World Report as one of the best high schools in the nation. And over the course of this current school year, we have added, as your students move up into the high school, 5 additional college credit courses, so that students can have college level work, earn college credit while still in high school, bringing the total number of courses that we offer college credit for to 22. Additionally, I talked about the capital project. We are moving towards phase 1. We have work occurring off shift right now, so while the kids are in session, we don't have the contractors doing much of the work. They're working off shift. That will ratchet up over the summer. There's more work happening in the building. Capital District Regional Planning Commission gives us a long-range enrollment projection on an annual basis. That enrollment is studied by Mr. Pratt's committee, which is the Budget Review and Advisory Committee, to make sure that we are monitoring what's happening. In addition, the North Greenbush area is receiving the most growth in terms of the number of children moving into the district, but we also recognize that there are shifts occurring within the Genet attendance zone and in the Red Mill attendance zone, really throughout the district. So we have contracted with CASDA, a local agency affiliated with UAlbany, to do a more careful study of what's happening within our attendance zones, so that we can study the problem and make sure that we are able to adjust our district attendance zones to the increasing enrollment. Additionally, you are familiar with the Chromebooks that were distributed to students this year. The Chromebooks were purchased along with some of this projection technology out of a grant program from the state, which rests outside the general fund budget, called Smart Schools Investment Plan. But we have built into our budget replacement costs for those computers, should they break, should they need to be replaced. Additionally, there are needs in technology that continue to be met by the district's budget, including looking at what some of our special area teachers, such as our art and our music teachers, might need down the road. And we've enhanced our recruitment of our teachers and our substitutes and other difficult to fill positions. Some things you might not know about that we've worked with the community and with other school districts on. We had some students at the high school level who were interested in playing hockey. 4 or 5 from Columbia joined with Evo Park, with Brunswick, North Colony, and South Colony to form through Section 2 a combined varsity hockey team. We have 3 schools now developing backpack programs because we're seeing increased need in some of our families and our student population, higher percentages of students throughout the district on free or reduced lunch. Those programs provide meals and nutritious snacks for the kids when they go home and for the families on the weekend. Belltop Elementary School started a new therapy dog program, and we are working with the Business Advisory Council to look at the skills that students are gonna need to move into various job sectors, and the entire community, all of the schools joined together this year in partnership to raise more than $5,000 for relief for the hurricane victims of the 2 major hurricanes in our country and in Puerto Rico. In the area of safety, we have been offering some workshops for parents. They've been very popular, and so we plan to offer those again. There are some challenges that we experience in the classroom that I'm sure parents are challenged by at home, such as keeping the tech in check. The phones and the access to technology, while it's important that the kids have that access to information, how do we set appropriate boundaries and parameters and limits for that? We've also involved our athletic coaches to offer a free summer program. Last summer, it will be offered again. It's funded through our intramural budget. Kids can come in the morning or come in the evening to receive fitness instruction, weight training, and other fitness programming at our high school. And this is open to any kids who are considering trying out for modified sports all the way up through varsity or JVs. Anyone can come. Additionally, we worked with Greenbush Child Care to make sure that they were aware of our safety plans this year, and we did an extra training that we hadn't done in quite some time to make sure that Greenbush Child Care understood our protocols within the district. Our professional, on the days when you have the kids at home and we have the teachers here, we've offered professional development, including working with mental health. 1 in 5 children in our country has been identified by the CDC as having some type of a mental illness, as well as technology, working with the integration of the technology that we've made available. And you know about our new visitor management system that does an instant background check. Some awards, we've highlighted some of the student awards. There are many more on our website to take a look at. These are some. We had a National Merit Scholarship finalist this year, Sam Gabunski, who's a part of the class of 2019. In addition, we had some 5th graders win a math place in the top 10 of the math competition of more than 11,000 students. We recognize our staff. School bus driver Michael Bodie, who will be retiring this year, has won the AAA Hudson Valley Award for his impeccable record as a safe school driver. And Jim Driscoll and Dan Wagner, recently 2 of our teachers at the high school, won Top Teachers of News Channel 13. For the 2nd year in a row, the Times Union has identified East Greenbush School District as a top workplace in the Capital Region. We are the only school district to be identified to receive that distinction. For 6 years in a row, the New York State New York State Public High School Athletic Association has identified our student athletes as worthy of the Good Sportsmanship Award. I think we are the only district to win it for that many years. Additionally, under the leadership of Mr. Edson, our business official, we are identified as a fiscally stable district as well as a safe district. Utica National Insurance, I think for 16 years in a row now, has identified the East Greenbush School District as being very safe in terms of very few accidents and injuries that occur on our buses or on our campuses compared to their other clients. We are also not considered a district in fiscal stress by the New York State Comptroller. There are some districts in New York State that are considered to be fiscally insolvent, who don't have enough money to meet their, not only their current expenditures and obligations, but their future obligations. And we are in good shape at this point, although we are concerned about the state aid situation and considered to be a fiscally stable district. We've also won some awards for Mr. Adams' work with the website and through the work of Questar Bosse's. Our video from last year on the bus purchase reserve won an award by the New York State Public Information Relations Association for schools. As we shift to talking about the finances of the district, it's very important that the community understand that, again, the sources of revenue for a school district are the local property tax base and state aid. And we're in a situation where state aid has not kept pace with our expenses. When we look at not only what we're doing next year and this year, we look at long-term trends, and you can see that compared to the other suburban council districts, over a 10-year period, the tax levy increases in East Greenbush have averaged about 1.61%. So less than 2%, and second only to South Colony. So our tax levy increases over a 10-year period have been the second lowest of any district within the suburban council. Additionally, most citizens are familiar with the New York State tax cap, commonly referred to as a 2% cap, but it's not a 2% cap. It's actually a specific formula that varies by district according to various calculations. But over the last 5 years, the blue graph represented in the chart shows how much New York State said we could raise the tax levy according to New York State tax cap law. And the red graph represents what we actually have done and put out to the voters. And so for this current year, the budget that we're operating under right now, the tax cap was 4.58%, and the current levy funding the district right now is 4.27%. Balance the revenue side of the budget with the expenditure side of the budget. The largest expense within the district's budget are the people that serve the kids. Almost 80% of a school district budget is represented by the staff and the personnel. So when we don't have the resources to be able to balance this budget, and we're forced into a situation where we have to reduce, and the good news in the budget next year is we're not reducing, the way that we can achieve this, the only way that we can achieve the savings is through the reduction of personnel, and that results in higher class sizes, fewer choices for courses at the high school, challenges to some of our extracurricular programs. So as we move forward into next year, looking at the fact that our enrollment has increased at the elementary school level, for example, at Belltop alone, we have 50 more kids than we had just 2 years ago. We've had to make some adjustments to the staffing. We are proposing adding 2 additional elementary teaching positions at Belltop. Currently, some of the classes at Belltop in 2nd and 3rd grade are 27 students in the class, and that is because there wasn't room for those, for an additional class over there. And so part of this proposal is the proposal that you're aware of, that the CTEC program would move here to free up those classrooms and make them available, so we can reduce that 27 kids in the class. Additionally, we're estimating as many kindergartners coming in next year to Belltop as the number of 5th graders moving on to the middle school, so there will be an extra section of kindergarten and a 2-3 combo class at Belltop that currently we don't have there. At Red Mill, one of the zones currently in Genet is moving to Red Mill. Red Mill is also experiencing some movement from other areas of Belltop. So Red Mill will be receiving the biggest increase in the number of children next year, new children to the district, as a result of the rezoning. And so to accommodate that, the additional position is needed at Red Mill. We have also looked at our needs in student behavior and mental health. There are some transition classes, that serve special education students at Green Meadow and Red Mill. So we're adding a social worker to provide that support. At Genet, we are adding an academic intervention services half-time teacher. That will bring the complement of AIS teachers to 3 full-time positions. Is that right, Mrs. Yeomans?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we've looked at some data through an RTI AIS committee that's currently working in the district, and we've seen that the number of children that need services here, because it's a larger building than some of the others, and because it has identified more kids who need extra reading and math to meet standards, that we need to add this additional position. And since I arrived in East Greenbush, Mrs. Yeomans has been making me aware of this in quite an assertive manner.
I thank you for your response.
But that's good news for Genet, should the budget pass. Our high school courses, given the fact that we have looked at pre-registrations for those courses prior to February break, indicate that we need some part-time support with a .2 social studies teacher and a .8 English. We are allowed to go up to 30 kids in a class at the high school level. We try to avoid that. In some cases, we are estimating that there will be over 30 kids, and so to add these part-time positions to the high school brings that number under 30 and assures that most kids can get the courses that they either need or the electives that they want to take. The other thing that I've asked the board to support, and they've been very supportive because they are advocates for safety. Our last safety supervisor leaves the district at 4:45 in the afternoon, and so with all the activities that are going on at the high school, the sports practices, the groups that are using the auditorium, the weight room, and the fact that there are a lot of people on our high school campus in the evenings, I've asked to add a safety supervisor to work a shift from 5 in the evening to 8, to provide somebody as a point person for safety. The staff estimated that is needed in the budget is about $514,000, which results in a little bit less than a 1% impact on the tax levy. But this is an adjustment to enrollment and an adjustment to program need. It's not a luxury or a lot of extra that we're adding. It's simply to shift to some of the changing needs, as well as looking at the fact that at the elementary school we are growing. To reinforce this, through the BRAC committee, the work that Mr. Pratt has been doing, we study these issues and take a look at the data on an annual basis. So you can see the elementary increases represented by the blue line graph. They're expected to have go from 1846 at the K-5 level to 2004 within the next 5 years. At the 6-8 level, we're going to receive a modest increase at the middle school level of about 50 children. And at the high school, because the smaller groups of kids, because we had lost enrollment, we'll be moving up into the high school. We expect that the high school enrollment will be slightly declining, but eventually those larger cohorts of kids in the next 15 years or so will be moving up to the high school, and we'll be looking at a graph that looks different than this, with our high school actually increasing enrollment. One of the things that we feel is very important is to emphasize why the district is asking for the community to support a tax levy increase, and this graph really represents what we're challenged by. New York State has a formula that has been in the law for quite some time called the foundation aid formula. It indicates how much money every district should receive based on wealth factors of the district, the property values of the district, and the average income of the district, along with enrollment statistics and other types of demographic data. Well, East Greenbush, according to this formula, should be receiving about $19 million next year in foundation aid. We're actually, in the final state budget, receiving only, I said 19,000, I meant 19 million. We're actually only receiving 17 million, so about $2 million less than what the foundation aid formula says we should be receiving. So that $2 million is important revenue to fund our budget, to keep our programs intact. One of the things we emphasize is because we are not getting the state aid that the formula requires, we have a problem on the revenue side of the budget. But we've been able to keep our expenditures under 2% on average over the course of the last 10 years, with the highest percentage increase in the budget being only 2.29%. So on average, the blue line represents each year's budget increase, the expenditure side of the budget, what the board has control over. And we've done a very good job, our board, of keeping it under 2%. However, the red line graph represents what has happened to the tax levy. You can see it up and down because the state aid formula has not been predictable because of problems with the state budget. Over the course of the last 3 years, our tax levy increases have been slightly more than the average over that 10-year period, is because the state aid has been less than what we've been getting over the course of that same state aid increases, less than what we've been getting over the course of that 10-year period. So we're asking the community to support a proposed 3.69% increase to the tax levy, which is less than the New York State property tax cap permits us to do, by about $600,000. So on May 21st, we'll be asking the community to give us permission to spend up to $95.9 million. It represents an increase in the budget of only 1.76%. It has a projected tax levy increase of 3.69. That 3.69% tax levy increase will raise a little more than $2 million into the revenue side of the budget. That money is needed to avoid program cuts. If we don't pass the budget and we have to go to a contingency, under contingency we cannot raise taxes at all. So moving into next year, we would not be able to increase the tax levy, yield that $2 million, and we would have to cut $2 million out of the budget in order to balance it. And again, to emphasize, New York State property tax cap law says that we could raise the tax levy 4.84%. And that would represent an additional $600,000 if you take the $2,049,277 and subtract it from that number of what we could do if we went right up to the tax levy cap, which we're not gonna do. There's an additional $600,000, but the board thought that was about as far as we should go in terms of balancing our programmatic needs, our staffing needs, and the comfort level of the community around taxes. So if we pass the budget on May 21st, we go forward and we'll plan for next year. Under New York State law, we have a second opportunity to bring a different budget up for a vote in June. What's the date of the June?
It's the third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday in June. We hope to avoid that because that makes everything uncertain for next year in terms of staffing for the children. We can revise the budget, or we have to go to the contingency budget, and it's under that contingency budget that we would have to cut almost $50,000 worth of program staff. Additionally, separate from the budget proposition that voters will have an opportunity to cast their ballots on, is a proposition to use monies that have already been legally set aside through voter authorization of the community and the voter authorization of the board for the specific purpose of using that savings to purchase replacement buses that are in need of being replaced. And we propose to buy 8 buses, 4 smaller buses and 4 larger buses at a total cost of $702,000. And those monies cannot be utilized for anything else because they're in a reserve that's legally set up for buses. So in other words, we can't take that $700 and lower the tax levy and plug the budget with that money. It can only be used legally for buses. We look at the safety of our current buses. We look at the mileage of those. High mileage buses, we tend to be putting more money in terms of operation and maintenance of the buses. Additionally, we look at newer buses being more fuel efficient, which saves on the budget for fuel. The state has a funding stream called transportation aid, and for every dollar that we use out of the reserve to purchase a bus, we get 64 cents back on the dollar for the busing, and it goes right back into the transportation reserve. So we're really paying about 36 cents on the dollar for our buses from the local taxpayers. So we are at a point in our budget timeline where Wednesday evening, May 8th, we'll be having a public hearing on the budget, which is at Howard L. Goff Middle School as part of the regular board meeting, which begins at 7 p.m. There'll be an opportunity for people who have not been able to attend one of our presentations to hear about the budget, as well as to hear about the legal information regarding voting and how they can vote and cast their ballots. We will not be having a meet the candidates night because we have 3 seats that are open and we have 3 candidates. Mrs. Skomersky, who's a current member of the board, Michelle Skomersky will be running for the board again. Karen Curran, who's been a long-term member of the board, will be running for the Board of Education again, and Deanna Muth, who has been a parent in your role in the district, and the PTO is also picked up a petition and has turned her petitions in and is seeking a seat on the Board of Education. So we have 3 candidates for 3 seats, so it is an uncontested election, and therefore we won't have a meet the candidates. And the important date is May 21, and if it's a nice night like tonight, as Mrs. Shulmans began the presentation this evening, we want to make sure that those folks that are informed on the budget and supportive of the budget recognize that they have the opportunity to vote on May 21st. But we want all citizens to come out and vote to make sure that we have a good turnout in support of our school district. And at this point, I'll take any questions or concerns or ideas that you have. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it.
No. Wave it at Larry.
Anybody? Board members? Anything? Mr. Pratt?
I'll just thank everybody for coming here this evening. This is a really important process, and we always enjoy the PTO budget round because you guys are the real grassroots people to get at the vote. And one of the things that concerns us from a board perspective is we don't get a lot of turnout at board meetings, only when something is affecting a very specific school or an incident. And when you're competing against baseball and all the activities of the springtime, everyone thinks because everything is good, just like Mrs. Yeoman said and Mr. Simon says, apathy is our greatest concern when things are going well, because the people who do vote no, I call them the party of no, they just come out, they will come out and vote. And so I'm not concerned that the budget won't get passed, because I think it's a good budget, I think it's a fair budget. And it's a necessary budget to maintain the climb that we've done. We need to make sure that everyone and anyone who can vote does get out and vote, because it's really important. We're laying the foundation for your children at the elementary level, what you're seeing going on in the high school. And if you saw some of the graphs, you could see the budgetary trends. Well, what you don't see is the loss of opportunity when those dips are going. And one of the things that we committed as a board, and my friends here and Mr. Pratt can attest to it, we made a commitment that when the economy returned, that we would start increasing. That is why you're seeing the change in the tax levies, whereas people might think, well, how did you get away with it back then, and when you offered zeros and ones? Well, we didn't offer the programming. And one thing we pledged when the economy came back, that we would try to restore the programming that was lost, and then go beyond. And one of the really good things that we've done through Mr. Edson's stewardship is, because we spent well, and we didn't take any real big hits, and it was long-term planning, we're actually increasing a lot for very little. You could see the key number here is the budgetary overall is 2% or less over every year. That's telling you a very consistent fiscal plan. But with that, you're seeing all these extra things. And one of the things that we've really done throughout this whole thing is we've really focused education for every child. That is what this budget is about. It's not about kids who go to college. They are a component, but it's about every child. There is something in these budgets for everybody to be treated equally and fairly and have the great opportunities. That is why our graduation rate is what it is. It's not that we're padding things at the high school level. We're starting at the elementary level with a commitment to consistency in education with a long-term vision. And that vision is through you folks. So my board perspective is, we are you. And so when you see this, we're protecting what is out there, but we do need you to make that vote happen. And the other part of this spiel is, some of you start thinking about board service, because we have a great board right now, and this is my recruiting opportunity, especially taking advantage of Facebook. We need people like you to climb that ladder and give back to the community this great mission that we're on, because what we don't do today is gonna impact the elementary kids of tomorrow, and we are very aware of that. So thank you for listening to me and my diatribe, but you guys do a great job, and it's a real privilege to serve on the board in this community with all the PTO groups behind us. That is really what drives us, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This isn't necessarily specific to this budget, but we just came off of a really hot September, and, the classroom's over 100 degrees, and a lot of us saw the lethargic looking students and teachers. If we wanted to talk about, just an example of increased air conditioning rooms in a building like Genet, what is the process that people do to discuss like capital improvements to our schools for parents to bring it?
The process would be, in general, to sign up and join Mr. Pratt's committee, the budget review committee, and we can have Mr. Edson send you some information. The next capital project because we have a three-stage phasing of the current project, there's, putting, climate control, conditioning in the HVAC system is not part of that, because it wasn't approved by the voters, but, there are ways to look at it, to study it, for the next project, but we'd have to see what the cost would be and whether it was aidable from the state. In some cases it is, in some cases it isn't. But that process would start when we start doing the next report that we have to file for the state called the Building Condition Survey, and that is what year?
They haven't decided yet.
Okay,
The earliest it would be in 2020, but we're going to fade, the state just adopted their own budget. As part of that budget, they changed the cycle for school districts over a period of years. So we don't know what bucket we're going to fall in. It could be 2020, it could be 2021, it could be 2022, and then thereafter we would propose a capital project. So probably a year, at least a couple years off.
I would say that I think the board would welcome parents and community input into the development of a scope of a capital project. I know I would, and a lot of that would be done through the BRAC committee. Okay, so we will let the PTOs know, even if your children move up to the middle school, you could still stay involved in that, by the time that building condition survey comes about. Window air conditioners are frowned upon, not only by the district, but also by the state. They're a safety issue to some degree. They drain energy, they're very expensive to operate. So, in limited cases where a staff member or a student has a authorized medical reason to have a window air conditioner, we can provide it. They come with a whole host of problems. Thank you for the question, appreciate it. It was unbearable. Having walked through here with Mrs. Showman's that day.
We were wet.
And seeing the perspiration.
It was
We
also
are aware.
extremely unusual. I mean, it can always be warm here, but nothing like this that past September, so we're hoping. I don't know where I'll be in September, but I hope it's cooler for all of you.
It was a good question. Other questions? Well,
I'd like to speak to about long range, okay? I'm talking about long range for your children. I'm watching students graduate out of college with $50,000-$80,000. And it's terrible. These kids, how are they gonna actually go out and get a home and start a life with that behind them? So it's gonna be important that your children take these college credits to help the cost on that thing. The other thing is that I'm a trustee at Hudson Valley Community College. I'm meeting with the president today. And the big thing is Hudson Valley is a great school. It's 11th in the country, believe it or not, as far as community colleges go. So if you're looking for something where you can save some money for your student to start out, and then they can move on to SUNY and Harvard or whatever they want to go to at that point. But you can save yourself a lot of money by starting off in a community college. And save yourself some money and the headache of your children not having to have to pay for this for 10, 15 years after that. Okay, just keep that in mind. Yes.
I have a quick question. I'm actually from Seattle, and out there we have a program called Running Start, where high school students can actually take college classes at a community college, get that credit, and have it count towards high school too. Has that ever been a consideration for the school district?
We're working with Hudson Valley now, the East Greenbush School District, and also with Siena, SUNY, Union College, the rest of them. So, and RPI, okay, that you take 2 courses and you transfer then on up to one of the colleges you want to go to. The colleges and high schools are really working together now.
How our program works here, there are numerous courses taught in the high school during the school day for Hudson Valley credit. Hudson Valley has to approve the instructor. They have to make sure that our teacher has certain courses in their transcript that would be comparable to what one of the Hudson Valley professors has. We have to use the same textbook and resources that the Hudson Valley program would use, and the kids take the course right in the high school. There are some programs that put our college kids on campuses in the summer, including at Hudson Valley, so we can get some type of college campus experience in the summer. Mr. Harkin from the high school has been working with Hudson Valley on some programs in the summer for coding, computer coding and software development and some other areas. We have, Hudson Valley, Schenectady Community College, Siena, New Albany, College of St. Rose, and a couple other ones, where students can take the courses right in high school, and it transfers automatically in Hudson Valley, and most SUNYs, if not all SUNYs, accept those credits. And we also have AP classes, which are sponsored by the college board, they're college level classes, and if a student scores a 3, 4, or 5, depends on the college may or may not accept that course for college credit, but many do if they score a 4 or a 5. So our program is a little bit different in the fact that it's taught by our own teachers. But there are some bridge programs and some other things that get kids involved in the colleges as well.
Another one was just recently approved. It was a psychology course. I think we have, it's well over 50 students signed up for next year.
We've all been the credit in psychology. We've always offered psychology, but we've gotten approval from New Albany to offer it for college credit this year.
And that's a really good question, and a little bit of a parent perspective. I had 3 children that graduated from Columbia, and they all did the college, different, my daughters did the AP stuff, my son, he wasn't really into the AP thing, but he did the college things. And what was interesting about that process is one of the things, and you guys start thinking about this, and we're trying to change the culture, is the senior year is not for going to school and doing nothing. And that's one of the greatest things that's plaguing our college, our kids when they go to college, is they took that year off, so academically, they're kind of stale. With the AP classes, especially at the senior level, whether it's a college in or out of the school, there's so many different variations and variables, but what is good is the kids are getting a full schedule, which is really, that in itself is preparing them for the rigors of a freshman year in college, that they're academically still being challenged, and they're getting geared into the college level challenge, whether they go to college or not. And if you go to any of those schools, you will then get the credit towards the degree course. One thing to be mindful of, if you don't go to those schools, you get the credit, but you don't get the degree credit, so it's not a waste. You hear people say, well, it's a waste of the time. No, it's not. You're challenging your seniors, you're challenging them to think to the next level, whether it be a technical school or college, or a trade school or a union or whatever. You're academically challenging them in their senior year, and I think that's one of the really good things that we're doing now, is trying to change that culture of senioritis and just going to school and fluff off for half a year. So, but we do have a very rigorous program, and I encourage all of you guys as elementary parents to start looking at what the high school is doing now, to become familiar with it, because as somebody who has traveled down that road, it's going to be here before you know it. So.
Just one small thing about that. I did the same thing in high school. At Columbia High School, I got the college credits, and I was able to use them. But also, I was able to register for my classes earlier than everyone else with college credits. So I had to pick a really good schedule. So it was a bonus to.
Through Questar BOCES, the superintendents in this region have been having discussions with college admissions offices, presidents and vice presidents and deans of all of the local colleges. And the thing they're saying, just to reinforce what Mr. Dunn has said, is we care more about the rigor of what the kids are doing in their senior year in high school, more so than SAT and ACT scores right now. We want to see kids who've taken challenging schedules their senior year. We want to see kids that are doing extracurricular service projects and things of that nature, and we want well-rounded students who are independent and challenge themselves. So senior year is really becoming an important parameter to whether kids get into college or they don't. One more point, I'll make, one indicator that on a national study that was done of students' success in college in their freshman year is they took at least one college credit course while they were in high school. And they did at least 2 community service projects, were involved in some, at least one extracurricular activity. I'm saying that those are the indicators. If they did that in high school, those are the indicators of the kids that are more successful their freshman year than those that were less successful. There's a concern that kids aren't ready for their freshman year, either academically or social and emotionally. There's a high number of kids that enter college in freshman year but don't graduate. Their graduation rates are less than New York State's, the school that has the highest 4-year graduation rate in New York is NYU, it's about 60%. So 60% of kids freshman year finish their senior year, that's pretty low. Only 6 out of 10 kids finish where they started from. It's more around the 30s and the 40s for most schools.
And you don't get discounts.
Now, this is one of the big things that Hudson Valley does for colleges, is retention. And it's one of the prime things we're working on right now is retaining the students from dropping out after their first year. And we're studying to find out what this is all about, and we need extra help or something to get into the second year, but retention is a big thing.
Well, thank you so much for your
Thank
involvement in the
you.
PTO, and thank you for listening.
Thank you,
to us.
Mr. Simon, and
We
members
appreciate all
of
that
the
you do.
board, and Mr. Pratt, and of course, Mr. Edson,